Have we made it work is the question. Is it finally working now? Is it finally working now? I think it is. Okay. You're on the phone, so I'm hanging up on you. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it. Sorry, everyone. I'm hanging up on you. Thank you for your help. Let me turn it off on there. I'm an idiot. I'm a technical idiot. I could not figure out how to make that go live for the life of me. So I apologize for making everybody wait for 16 minutes. That was a stressful 16 minutes, I'm not going to lie. I'm not even going to mess around with getting the microphones correct. Let's put the microphones away and jump straight into it, okay? So first up, I was meant to do this from 8 till 9. I've jumped on at 16 minutes past 8, so we'll run until 16 minutes past 9, okay? My fault. I am nearly 50 years old. I can't be doing with understanding how the intricacies of YouTube work. But maybe I need to learn about that, so I'm sorry. How this works is ask me some questions live. I've had maybe 2 or 3 up front, and that's it. Vivi, the marketing manager at Bookiebashing, will take them from the YouTube chat, filter them out, and put them onto a message to me. So I will get them from there. Excuse me? Pardon me. To apologize for that. So let's just I just want to start off with a couple of questions that were sent before it started, because these people, this is just meant to kick it off in the first minute or 2 before everybody joined, and of course we had the technical difficulty, so thank you for you hung around for that. Those questions were, let's do number 1, okay? This is just listen, there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? So many people might understand this one, but if you don't, it's definitely worthwhile asking. Stupid people don't ask questions. Clever people put their hand up and go, I don't understand. And this person says, look, if a horse's value 11 to 1 at midday, is it still a bet near a post time if it's drifted to 16 to 1? And my answer to that is that depends who you ask. So if you're asking somebody that is pricing up the whole race and there's no new information themselves, then it's still a bet because they're not considering any more information. Anything that drifts to a higher price is then a bet. If you're talking about a tracker or something that relies on input from the markets, and that would be quite wise, then it's not a bet, because that drift absolutely needs to be factored into any analytics or EV that you're using for betting on that horse. A lot of horse racing types and recreational punters say, if it drifts, that's bad news. That's not necessarily true. You see, let's say it drifts from evens to 3 to 1. Okay, well, the markets are making it less likely to win. But if you're able then to bet at it at 3 to 1, then it doesn't matter that it's drifting. That makes sense. The only problem you have really is if you bet on it at evens and now it's 3 to 1 there, you probably have a negative equity bet. Second question, if you have 7 picks in the DB, this is golf, in the DP World Tour, and 7 in the PGA, do you perm all the selections by doubles? If not, what criteria do you use to select your golf doubles bets across 2 events? So last week, let's use that as an example. There were almost too many golfers to bet on in the Scottish Open. In fact, there were. I didn't quite get down to Chris Gotterup. I know some did, and I know some got the Chris Gotterup William Mao double at 66 to 1 for both golfers at 4,489 to 1. I got William Mao, but I didn't get Chris Gotterup because I was probably using a different data metric. I've loaded up last price matched instead of default on mine. And the reason for that is I was looking a little bit early, and there was quite a lot of, it was very thin, the markets on the ISCO Championship. So all I'm doing is a little game where I'm trying to maximize EV whilst minimizing odds. So you might notice that the higher EV is always on the 200 to 1, the 400 to 1 players. And that's great, but they never win. Although when Peterson places, that's good news because 40, 50 to 1 on the place. But I've noticed that Rory's over 105% at 13-2. I can't remember how many places that was, but that's interesting because that's quite good EV for such a short price in golf. And something's crossed my mind in the Open coming up that could be my bet. I could just take Rory at 105% and leave it. That makes it quite difficult to perm a load of doubles. So it depends on the event, and it depends on the EV, and it depends on the magnitude of the odds. And I might get all purple in the Scottish Open, and I can only find one purple and a bunch of orange. Sorry if you don't know what purple and orange means. For me, I classify anything over 120% as purple, everything over 110% as green, everything over 105% as orange. So I'm trying to get the purple guys, but I would way prefer a 50-1 shot over a 500-1 shot. And if I can't get the purple guys, I am maximizing EV, but with a slight consideration that I'm also trying to minimize the odds. Lower odds are better. But if last week, I think there were maybe 20 options for the Scottish Open and 5 for the ISCO Championship. And so there I maybe have the best 8 in the Scottish Open mixed up with the 5 in the ISCO Championship. And when you're working out your stakes, that's 8. A times B times 2 for each way times your stake. So 8 times 5 times 2 times a £1 stake would be £80 for those doubles on a £1 stake. The next question, and this is the last pre-question, if you like, where can I pick up the best metrics about the course for the tournament that week? For example, the best metrics for one course could be driving accuracy, strokes gains approach. Yeah, so this is the data metrics graph. Now, for years, we have done this ourselves and we've researched the best metrics, but now we've made it available and you can apply your own metrics and your own weights if you've got a different opinion to us. If you don't want to look up the course, your links courses, driving distance is not important, driving accuracy is. Over in America, a lot of these hard greens, easy rough, driving distance is more important than driving accuracy, that kind of thing. If you don't want to look them up, we still do our own research and publish them ourselves. So you can just use our graph. If you want to play around with them, the best service that we actually use this in-house is it's an American service called fantasylabs.com. And you can go in there and you can pick a tournament and you can take a data metric and you can see how predictive that data metric has been in the past for predicting the performance of the players in the tournament. So we take each tournament and we rank all of the different data metrics based on their historical performance. And then from there, we go, okay, we're taking driving accuracy, we're taking strokes gained approach, whatever, So Fantasy Labs is a really, really good site. It's a little bit of money, as everything is over in America, but they are the best at what they do in terms of the analytics of metrics for golf tournaments. They're called Fantasy Labs because, of course, in America, if you're looking at this, you're looking at fantasy sports betting as opposed to the sports betting that we know. Somebody sent me a nice message. I just want to touch on it. He said, utter respect to you, sir. The only real question is why, after the shit that you have had, after the shit you have had over the last X amount of time, I'd be closing the brain and influence on others. The thing is, have a look at this, right? I'm going to give you 5 messages. Look at the username and listen to the construct of the sentence. What do you pick up? Because I'll just give you a hint now. These are real people. This is artificial intelligence. This is a ChatGPT code of some sort. So the 5 messages were from @RudeGolfer, @SkepticBetter, @PunterKing99, @RagingGolfer21, @AngryPunterX. I mean, those aren't real names. No one's picked up those usernames. And the comments go, what a bloody joke. Tom's a prat for betting doubles with this tracker rubbish. The next one goes, another overhyped tool. Doubles are a monk's game. The next one goes, doubles, more like double the losses. This tracker crap is for suckers. The next one goes, what a load of bollocks. Betting on golf doubles with some overpriced tracker. These aren't real. No, there's not a real person writing these. Okay? So you just got to bear in mind that a lot of what we're seeing, and a lot of definitely what I see, is generated by artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, which probably makes me stupid for arguing with it in the first place. What starting out kind of bank do you recommend? Well, you can start with nothing. Like a lot of people, I mean, it is difficult, but you can do paper trading, where if you think you've got an edge, just write down the bets diligently until you reach 1,000 bets, and then you can go back and see what would have happened if I'd put unit win, unit loss, Kelly stakes in here. I mean, one of those might be a win and one might be a loss. Different staking strategies, same bet. If you want to start seriously, I think a minimum of £1,000 is probably realistic, but the most important thing being, don't be tied to that £1,000. You have to be able to lose it. The more tied you are to a bankroll, the less risk you'll take, which is going to be restrictive in terms of your ability to make any money. So if you want to make any money seriously, profitably, like you could try with £500, but some of the bet stakes you would be placing would be so small. I mean, I think you'd be looking at maybe 5p lucky 15s, something like that, depending on the magnitude of the odds and the EV that you're taking. Do you think that betting companies are subscribing to your service, maybe to see where the holes are in their pricing? I know for a fact that a number of different people that work for betting companies subscribe to Bookiebashing. I can't be certain, but I'm going to go 98% that they are not using our service to patch holes in their own pricing. They're just not. And the reason for that is that critically importantly, we price in-house, and we don't say how we price in-house. So it would be very difficult for them. As well, a lot of what they do, especially on horses, is they just track the exchange. So one of the beautiful things about the BB algo is it's meant to patch a hole where the exchange doesn't exist. Now, the bookmakers adjust prices purely on the exchange price. If a horse comes from 16 to 12 on the exchange, you get the C across Odds Checker. You probably do now if you're a premium customer, where all of the odds just come down at the bookmakers. Nothing that we say is going to make any difference to what the bookmakers do in terms of cutting or pushing out their odds there. So I'm like, obviously I can't be certain, but I'm fairly sure the answer to that is no. I saw the same question asked over at Outplayed when they released their Pro tracker, which was a complete clone of our tracker. I saw the ex-director of Outplayed say that on the first month, they brought in £1 million from subscriptions for their Pro service, which was our Pro service. It would take us a number of years to bring in that amount of money. So if the bookmakers are looking anywhere to cut their odds, it would be at the community that is 35 times bigger than ours. When do you estimate you'll be adding the EVs for alternative bookie place numbers? Didn't quite understand that question. I did send it to IT, who didn't understand it. If you want to rephrase it, do ask. But in terms of like alternative bookie places, if you're talking about golf, we have now a standalone tool called Forecast. You can have a look at the EV under any places and any terms. If you're talking about horses, we're working on it. Maybe that is what you're talking about, and I'll just ask. That is the. Okay, right. I'll see if I can get an answer for that, and I'll come back to you. Do you need to timestamp opportunities, as there could be a correlation between time to race and outcome? Yeah, I kind of understand what you're saying there. So over the life cycle of a market, this is something I wanted to talk about in Smart Bash, and we didn't get around to it quite. You can think of the market opens, and at bookmakers and on exchanges, there's little liquidity. So on exchanges, there might be an empty lane and empty back, and at bookmakers, if you click max bet, it's going to be quite a small amount of liability or taking a bet. And then at the off, that's when we get the maximum amount. So you click max bet, the liability is the highest at the bookmaker. Then if you're restricted at a bookmaker, you can often get more on in the last 10 minutes. Wait until then. And so what's happening here is that the market is uncertain at the beginning, and you get lower limits, but you get higher EV and higher ROI. And as the life cycle of the market moves to the off, you then get a lot of confidence, but therefore, because we've got a lot of confidence, there is lower EV, a lower range of opinions, and a lower return on investment. So what do we want? Higher EV, lower confidence, or lower EV, higher confidence? Well, that's the trade-off. And this question here, do you intend to timestamp opportunities? There's a correlation between time to race outcome. Once I've taken a bet, I then ignore everything else that's happened. Yeah, I do some background analytics where I'm checking against closing line value with a lot of the things behind the scenes, but that's more for bookie bashing than it is for me. The bet's taken. What was annoying recently is I was on that horse, I forget the name of the horse, but it was in a lucky 15. And it was, I bet on it, did I bet on it at 20 to 1? Could have been 40 to 1. By the time it was racing, it was worth £45,000 for me, but it had also drifted to 120 on the exchange, and that was irritating. But my entire focus was, well, I bet at the time with the information that I had. Half the time that horse is going to drift, and I can't help it when that happens because I don't have the information. If I did, I'd have free money by trading on the exchange. Half the time it's going to steam. With no other information, it's going to drift half the time and steam half the time. I just, next time maybe it would have steamed into 5 to 1 and I would have been £45,000 better. But yeah, to answer that question, once I've taken the bet, I tend to then ignore everything else. Can you recommend a website that picks up player stats? If you mean the results, it's so complicated. There's not a really easy one to do. We go off the Opta official stats. It's really hard to get an automated feed for genuinely what Opta quoted, £10,000 a month. There are places out there like FBF, Ref. You can look up individual games on flash scores. Be wary with flash scores. Back in the day, we used to use flash scores to look up the results for combo bets manually. So it'd be like 2 corners and 2 cards in the game, and we look it up, and there's 2 cards in the game, so we count that as a winner. But what they'll do then in 2 days' time, they'll subsequently say, there was 1 card in the game, or they'll go, that card was for a player that wasn't on the pitch. And they only do that 2 days later. So if you've looked at the result in the interim, you log a winner when there's a loss. So just be very careful. Flash scores, not the most accurate. Who scored as well. But again, I think you have to look game by game in those services. So it's not the easiest to sort of, it's not an easy thing for us. We only do it once every 6 months, maybe even longer, because looking up the results of 10,000 plus individual matches one at a time, is extremely time consuming. Okay, right. I'm just going to move to the next set of questions here. Bear with me whilst I get them from Vivi. They are up here. Let me have a swig of drink. Okay, let's take these questions and put them into a notepad. That monster drink, by the way, is an absolute savior for me these days. That's instead of the beer on the live stream that used to take place. Getting a bit older. Are you finding that the volume of the Lucky 15 bets on horse racing tracker is reducing? I've got a graph, but I don't know how to post the graph on YouTube. I don't think it can be done. So let me make a note. I'm going to post the graph. Post the graph of volume. Behind the scenes at Bookiebashing, we monitor a load of different metrics. Okay. And one of the reasons we brought the dashboard live was to make it easier to report on various metrics. And one of the metrics that we look at is volume. And I have to say, we are asked every month at least on support, is the volume reducing? And we look at it and the answer is no. You do get cyclical periods. There are times of the year, especially more and so in the winter months, when there are fewer plus EV opportunities. But over a 12-month period, what the metric that we use is we average it, the average number of horses per day over a 90-day period, and then we roll that forward. And we've found that over the last 5 years, it's been pretty static. There was maybe like a 9-month period a year ago where it got a little lower than normal, but it recovered. So what we'll do is we'll post that so that you can see for yourself. But if you want to have a look at the number of plus EV horses that are on the tracker at Betfred, Bet365, Ladbrokes, Sky Bet, Paddy Power, and William Hill at 12 p.m. every day, you can go to the dashboard now, and that's up to date to a couple of days ago. And you can just download them. And then like, oh, there were 100 between this period and 100 between that period. Excuse me. We've got data for the last 6 years, I think. Someone asked me a question, and I can't find it, but it was a good question. So I want to try, I'm going to paraphrase it, if you don't mind. Okay. They said, you do trebles on football, doubles on golf, and lucky 15s on horses. Why can't you do lucky 15s on football or golf? Why don't you do trebles on horses? Well, the answer is you can do anything. It's all about, within reason, it's all about compounding value and finding a sweet spot. Now, you can't do anything but doubles and golf because there's only 2 golf tournaments, okay? I mean, I've never tried to perm trebles with live. It could be possible, but the live result in short-term variance. I'm sure it's short-term variance, but the fact that I haven't permed live into any multiples has probably saved me money up until now. That's got to recover though. Look, if we thought live was, the model was wrong and it was negative EV, we would pull the live tournament. We've only had 300 selections so far, and that's not enough to gauge a long-term ROI from it. One reason is laziness, in that once we found a level of comfortability, generally the top 7 teams on a football coupon into trebles was just what we would do. There was a coupon, was it Seventh Heaven, I think, that came out, and Fred said trebles only on this coupon. That was one of the reasons why we started, but then it was compounding the value, and it was also making us hide as value seekers and arbitrage players, and so that helped us. So just betting trebles helped us. Now, we could have been, we have tried betting quadruples, but the variance was insane, even at shorter odds. So in terms of variance and volatility, trebles made sense. Lucky 15s get concessions at the bookmaker in shops. If you do it on machines, you don't get them. If you do them in the slip, you get ×2, maybe sometimes ×3 odds for a single winner. That adds on 4 to 8% return on investment on top of your return on investments. If you were making 5% return on investment, now you're making 9 to 13% return on investment. So it makes sense to use those concessions. Add on the fact that they give you that little, that little dream of a jackpot payout, albeit the win is so rare over very, very, very large data histories when you're betting 5-1 and over. So, I mean, you could argue maybe that money could be saved if you put them into doubles, and there's nothing wrong with betting doubles. You remove the concessions, but you also remove the win wasted bets that never happen. So, yeah, hopefully that answers that. There's no right answer to it. You're just trying to compound value and hide from restrictions. That's all you're trying to do. Hi, Tom. Good to see that. Good to see you doing this, considering some of the BS that some have been doing lately. What is the best foundations for building shop routines? 40 coupons, each way horses, golf. Okay, day of the week. That's what it is, right? There's no reason not to get horses anytime you visit. Sometimes there's not enough value. If you can avoid taking 100%, 100.1%, 100.2% just because it's the only thing that's valuable that day, that would be good, because it increases your long-term ROI and it involves a bit of discipline. You've got to go no bet. And if you've gone all the way to the shop, sometimes going no bet is annoying. But generally, you should be aware of the value before you go. Tuesday and Wednesday is golf days. Tuesday afternoon, golf goes live. Tuesday lunchtime, although the Open went live today because there's loads and loads and loads of value. So if I head over there now, I saw that Marco Penge, who very, very, very nearly returned 50,000 for me. Even if he just won and Peterson hadn't, it would have been such a pretty insane day. But it's just chopped and changed a little bit, but he's still pretty good at 100 to 1 at Betfred. So if you're going to Betfred now, there's no horses, no point in doing horses. But if it was 9 o'clock in the morning, get on your horses. And then football coupons. There's two arguments. One argument is we're in the off season, so there's not a lot going on. The other argument is we're in the off season, and so a lot of the prices are a lot less robust, which provides opportunity for us. Personally, I'm just keeping an eye on the football coupons because we don't know if they're going to be coming back in August with the rollout with new machines at Betfred. There has been rumour that Betfred and William Hill are going to discontinue them. We've heard those rumours before and they didn't happen, but we've heard them from more than one source this time around. But football coupons generally, I like to get on them later on in the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But if there's Champions League, there's nothing wrong with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as well. Again, there's two arguments. Earlier on, you get less confidence. Later on, up till kickoff, you can actually have quite big swings. My personal favourite time of the year for football coupons is 2:05 p.m. on the Saturday of the third round of the FA Cup. That is, across the entire year, the one slot that I will not miss and where I find that there's a lot of opportunity because you find out some teams are taking it seriously. Some have sent the kids, the B team. You all of a sudden you find out that maybe Tamworth have got a chance against Tottenham. That game cost me a lot of money last season. Next question. If you're betting into goal scorer markets on the exchange before team news, is there a danger you're betting against someone with more info? Follow-on question, what's the best source for predicted 11? Second part, I don't know. That kind of local expert knowledge, like if you've got a mate who seems to know everything about Fulham, he might be your best guy for the predicted lineups for the Fulham match, really, genuinely. Okay? But in terms of online, I always use Who Scored. Things like that, keep your ear in the radio. You know, if someone's picked up an injury, that's always a thing. It's like if you're listening to Radio 5 Live. Excuse that motorbike going past, but I can't close the windows too hot. If you're listening to Radio 5 Live and they say Haaland's picked up a knock, an injury, the first thing that you should be thinking is, I need to go and see what effect Haaland not starting has on the remaining players on the pitch, because it's going to be huge. And all of a sudden, the odds of Marmoush getting a goal are going to really come down, and there might be value everywhere for AGS, FGS 2+ and 3+ for certain players in the pitch. So anytime you hear someone is maybe got a knock or is an injury doubt, it's kind of a rush to who can calculate the effects of that the fastest. And the first question was, is there a danger of betting at someone with more info? Yes. But the flip side of that is there is also the danger or benefit that you're betting on someone with less info. I've spoken to some of the people who seed some of the player statistics markets on the exchanges. And when asking what their strategy was nothing more than taking the top price at some of the bookmakers that offered a concession around the substitute rolling off the pitch and a new player coming on, and that player is now your live bet. They were using that concession and trying to hedge some of their liability on the exchange. And the only thing that they were using as a barometer for what the numbers should be on the exchange was the bookmaker price. Okay, right? So now we move over to have the bookmaker priced it right. Well, we know that there are various bookmakers that price them very, very badly. Bet365 is one. Paddy Power is another one. So I don't trust any of their numbers. Especially when you look at the wider market. I mean, what are Paddy Power doing in some of these player stats bets? Their concession is a super sub. Your player comes off the pitch, a new player comes on. That means that their prices should actually be worse than everyone else because other firms aren't doing that. So the expected playing time of each of their players is much longer than the other firms. So the average shots on target, fouls, tackles should be lower. And yet I'm finding the whole market are 1.4, 1.5 for a shot on target. And then Paddy Power 3-1. It's nonsense. It's like you don't need to have a back-tested shots on target expectancy model to know that that's value. Whether your Paddy Power will survive more than a single bet on that is another question. But I'm just saying, it's like Paddy Power are wild, can be nonsense, and some of the prices being put up on the exchanges are directly related to that nonsense, which is why they are exploitable. Hi, Tom. Been following and loving the golf series. I want to start shop betting, but new to it, intimidated. Any tips? I'm wondering, will I stand out if new to a shop and start putting big stakes on? No, you won't stand up through the act of putting big stakes on. You'll stand up through the act of trying to hide and be anonymous in the shops. I love chatting to the cashiers because I don't want to hide in the corner of the shop. I don't want to shuffle in with my Mac, with my hat, my cowboy hat, just put a load of money in the machine and then shuffle out again. Like, they'll instantly want to, even if I'm not a winning player, they'll want to ban me. You want to talk to the staff, you want to tip. There was an argument about whether tipping was worthwhile or not recently. Now, the two people who were saying it was worthwhile, I personally know to be some of the highest staking, profiting shop advantage players over the last decade. These guys were in old syndicates of mine from before Bookiebashing, right? And right at the start of Bookiebashing. And they are still getting money down. And one of the primary reasons is because they tip. One of the guys, I believe, had a £25,000 golf double just a few weeks ago, followed it up yesterday with William Moe and Chris Gotter up for another, it looked like 18 grand as well. And he's just continuing to get money down and pick up big payments. And one of the reasons why is just being nice to the staff. I put on a lucky 15 in Euston on the way to Smart Bash. It was 60 quid and won 133 quid. Not a huge bet. Okay, £73 profit. But I came and cashed it in my local area in Worcestershire because, well, I brought the ticket home. I didn't have time to cash it down in Euston. Just wanted to come home. And when I gave it to the lady, she said, "Where did you get this?" I said, "Euston." And she said, "Oh." I said, "How much is on it?" She went, £133, but I need to phone and get permission for it to go through. So she's carrying the money out, and I just said, "Will you take that tenner and break it into 2 5s and keep one?" And she just looked up and went, "Really? Thank you." She broke the tenner into 2 5s, kept a fiver, gave me the rest, and put the phone down without speaking to anyone. Tipping really does make a difference. Being nice and asking about them makes a difference. Just, that's my advice. Also, you say putting big stakes on. What's big stakes? Do you know what big stakes are? Back in the day, a Greek third division team would be even money at the Bookmaker and 1.9 on the exchange. And I knew some of those sharpers who would go in and they would put £500 down on multiple shops, max betting this Greek third division team to £5,000 because they're hedging it and they want to get down as much money as possible. Are you putting down £5,000 across different shops? I'm going to argue that you're not. Maybe you are. But even if it's difficult to max bet when you're not an arbitrage player, that's what I'm saying. Also, for golf, I have seen some bet slips up in the north of England that seem to run to 6 figures liability. So how big stakes are you putting on is what I'm asking. Tom, is there any allowance given for players scoring twice when normalizing player XG? No, because you don't have to. Normalizing player XG, all that means is that you have an expectancy for the team. The team is going to get 2 goals. You've got 10 outfield players and a group of substitutes, and you've just got to divide those 2 expected goals by this set of 10. Well, 11, 10 outfield players and all your substitutes. That's all it means, right? So whether a player scores 1 goal, 2 goal, 3 goal, 4 goal, 5 goals, it's kind of irrelevant. All you want to know is what the XG is of each player. And then you take your XG and you can work out the probability of the player getting 2+ goals from a Poisson probability distribution. I did wonder if it was a Poisson probability distribution, but I've now checked that with so many people that work as senior traders in odds compiling firms that have big contracts, and they're using exactly that as well. I started off doing Poisson. I adjusted it, and then I went back to Poisson because they've given me the reassurance. So all Normalizing is doing is giving you your XG for your player, and from that, use your Poisson distribution to get your 2+. In internationals, especially friendly internationals, this is where we might need to be careful because there's such a wide range of expected playing time. There's a very big chance that Kane comes off the pitch at half-time in a friendly international. That does have some effect on it, but in all honesty, that should be factored into the price as well. I mean, it should be factored into the XG, the AGS, the FGS, the 2+ and the 3+. Right, let's have a look at some more bets from VV. I've answered that one. So, right. Hi, Tom. What's your best pick for the golf this week? Ha! I've got the tracker open. My best pick for the golf this week, across every single bookmaker, is... I think it said Patrick Harrington. Now it's just going to stall, isn't it? Yeah, I'm going to have to refresh the page. I've got very poor internet up here. I don't know. Marco Penge, I mean, he's playing well. I'm sort of scared a little bit about the Open. What did I calculate? 25% allocated to Rory and Scotty. There's been worse tournaments this year where Rory and Scotty have been a lot shorter. Something about me I've got this thing where I never get too excited about majors. It's probably recency bias, but I haven't hit the winner of a major since Rory McIlroy years and years and years ago. I want to answer that question using the golf metrics graph. Oh, it's live. I didn't think it was going to be live. So let's assign some metrics. I'm going to say driving accuracy is the most important here. I'm going to give that a weight of 7. I'm going to say strokes gained around the green with a weight of 5. And my third one is going to be strokes gained total with again a weight of 5. I'm going to generate my graph, and let me tell you, no surprising, we score Scotty Scheffler the highest. But with those metrics and those weights, the player that stands out on the efficiency frontier for me, I'm going to give you a top 3, okay? Very high price, medium price, and still all 3 of these are triple figures, okay? Lucas Glover, Sung Jae Im, and Aaron Rai. And Aaron Rai is 130. So he's going to be my top pick because he seems to be scoring as better than John Rahm, who I saw at 10-1 at the bookmakers. I'm like, I would take that on. I would be laying at 10-1, not backing. Well, according to my metrics, Aaron Rai has been playing better than John Rahm. And by the way, Rory's metrics are terrible. I wonder if the recent Scottish Open are in that, but I'm quite surprised. There's a number of players at very high odds that seem to score better than McIlroy. He is very hot and cold. A few more players, if I can throw them out. Russell Henley's looking good. Corey Connors nearly got that hole-in-one in a par 4. That's an albatross. But if it was a par 5, what is it called? Pop quiz. And do we want a fun 1,000-1 one? No, let's not do that. The problem with the 1,000-1 players is they could be 5,000-1, they could be 10,000-1. It's a fun life for those people that are laying impossible shots at 5,000-1. It's a shame Davis Bryan doesn't play him because he's my player of just now. And Laurie Cantor, I've always got like a half an eye on Laurie as well. But yeah, Aaron Rai used to have just from up the road from me, to tell you the truth. He is my pick of this week. And I'm getting that from my metrics graph. But I also think one of Scotty and Rory is going to win. So I'm not so super excited about this tournament from a win only or even an each way basis because I don't think I'm going to get the winner. I'm a little bit more excited about it in the doubles with the Barracuda. Maybe my Aaron Rai places. And sometimes these doubles are really about just syncing up big price places. I love throwing the 200-1 guys, 100-1 guys into those perms and hoping you just hit that 20 and 20. That's 400-1, isn't it? Is it possible for the horse racing tracker to update quicker? I feel less confident from horses of 3 minutes plus. Let me ask IT. I don't know the answer to that question. I think it runs fairly fast. You have to understand that it has to read every horse in every race, at every meeting, at every bookmaker, put that into a database, send it to the tracker, update the tracker, and then go and do it again. So there is obviously going to be some sort of lag. Now, I'm not an IT guy. I don't know if it can be improved, but I have asked the question, and I don't know if IT are online just now, but if they are, I will give you the answer. Do you think there's an angle with Greyhounds using a model and late money? Yes. Do I know what it is? No. I've never done it myself. I'm pretty sure people make money out of it. I always thought Greyhounds a little bit like horses as a connection sport. So those that have people that know the Greyhounds do well. But if you've got it's not impossible. Did you hear the podcast? Was it my podcast possibly with Anthony Kaminskis? It was a great story about when he was the CEO of Greyhounds at Paddy Power, and there was a horse up in the north, let's say Sheffield, a greyhound up in Sheffield, and it loved chasing other greyhounds, but it was very fast. So it would come out, it would be winning, and then it would just want to move into seconds to chase the other greyhound. So it never won. So when they priced it up, it was 20-1, but it never won, and it always came second. So you couldn't make it 2-1 because it was not going to win. But then the each way terms at 20-1 were just killing Paddy Power. If you can come up with a model like that with historical data and pick up those kind of greyhounds, and I'm sure it can be done, and I'm sure you can incorporate late money into it. I'm certain that there's decent edges out there for the mathematicians and the modelers. Never looked at it myself. The technology behind Bookiebashing isn't quite there to look at greyhounds. What are you most excited about when hitting the new football season starts, and will you be focusing on a particular strategy this season? The most exciting thing is always trying to work out where the bookmakers have overpriced and underpriced certain events to happen, which they always do. So all seasons start with new rules, with new dynamics, and there is always this sort of life cycle, this period of time where they're either underpricing or overpricing a certain thing, meaning there's value on the over or there's value on the under. There's value to back or there's value to lay, one of the two, right? And then the market will correct, and often it will correct too far. So where there was once backs, it's now lays. Where there was once lays, there's now backs. It's always trying to find out where precisely that is, because it's not across every market. But last season it was player cards. I was talking extensively, don't know if he's watching just now, but Jeevan in my local coffee house about how extreme player cards were last season in terms of what was happening on the pitch, what the odds compilers were able to model. I mean, there were huge shifts from underpricing to overpricing on player cards last year. And it's just about knowing that now is the time to be backing the overs and now is the time to be backing the unders. I mean, as a data service, we can always provide our best guess and we can always benchmark against historical data. But you have to kind of get yourself into the zone. And by that, what I mean is that you've got to be watching what's happening intently across late August. I mean, I'm never around in late August, but other people hopefully are looking at this on my behalf. And then through September, trying to find as many different markets to look at as possible, from anytime goal scorer, first goal scorer, cards, tackles. And I certainly think moving forward, things like tackles, fouls, these new player statistics markets provide much more opportunity for differences in opinion and therefore value than the more established markets like Asian handicaps, match odds. I mean, I almost think it's pointless trying to beat over 2.5, over 3.5, because it's such an unbelievably efficient market. The people that are pricing those markets up, especially in the English Premiership, Italy, Germany, Champions League, they're doing such a good job that it's nearly impossible for anyone to find a tangible edge in over 2.5 and over 3.5. So you just move on. You say, oh, can't beat it, but what can I beat? Player fouls, maybe. Right. Let's have a look. Where can I pick up the best metrics about the course of this tournament? You could use us, Bookiebashing, Tuesday lunchtimes, and that graph goes live, or go and read about it. I did say Fantasy Labs. I think Betfair do a write-up. You know, there might be something in the Racing Post as well. So, I mean, I'm an analytical guy, so Fantasy Labs works for me. What time is it, by the way? Got 9 o'clock. We maybe got another 10 minutes, okay? Excuse me, I'm just going to wipe my nose. 1 second. I don't want to do this on camera, so I'm just going to move away. I had a sniffly nose there for a little bit of time. If you've got a team that was value on the game center, and it had drifted by SP, would it still be considered to be a value bet? Yes, I've talked about that before. So on average, you want to be beating the closing line, but you could argue maybe that beating the closing line 52% of the time and not beating it 48% of the time might be enough for long-term profit. And generally, you can maybe assume that if you're betting on steamers, then you'll be betting on more steamers that are continuing to steam than steamers that then drift from the moment that you bet on them. But it won't be more by a lot. Again, it might be 45, 55%. So going back to this question, if you bet on a team that's value and then it drifts, is it still a value bet? Yes, because you didn't know it was going to drift. And with no other information, half of them will drift and half of them will steam. So if at the time it was a value bet and half of them drift and half of them steam, over the long run, these drifters and steamers will cancel each other out and you're left with just your value bets, if that makes sense. So yeah, and it's going to happen as well. So don't get worked up about it. Like, you will bet on plenty of bets, over 1,000 bets that drift. But you mitigate the risk of losing money in the long run by making sure that you're betting on enough value at the time. Minimum 105%, maybe, if you can find that. Golf doubles, just curious. I see you put on a few different double bets. Are you including the same players you backed to singles, or also including other players of value? Very, very good question. Paul Peterson was included in all 3 singles. Paul Peterson was included in all 3 doubles that I had this week, and I had him each way single. And I'm amazed I didn't have him on the exchange, because he was scored really highly on the metrics graph, and I normally have all of the players on the efficiency frontier win only on the exchange. In fact, I was really surprised to look on Saturday when he started playing well that I didn't have him on the exchange. I thought I did. I did have William Moore on the exchange. I can't complain too much, but that's not the point. The point is, I was on Paul Peterson numerous times because he was such great value. He was such great value. He was purple EV, and he was on the efficiency frontier of the metrics graph. So it wasn't the trifecta. It's whatever the trifecta is for 2 things. Perfect double. And when that happens, I will want to get on as many times as possible, with half a mind that I don't want to blow my overall staking plan. I don't want to stake too much on somebody, because if he loses, all those bets lose. So someone that's high purple EV and sitting on the efficiency frontier, I do not mind getting on them multiple times. And someone that's thinner EV, not scoring so well on the metrics graph, maybe I'm happy getting on them once. So that forms part of my staking, informal Kelly staking in my head, right? You bet higher, you bet more, you stake higher on opportunities where the value seems to be greater. What's your best advice for scaling betting other than teams? Also, were you worried about the SBC podcast with Harry and his view on beards? Right. Well, I can't answer this very usefully. All I can say is we provide information for soft bookmakers at Bookiebashing, Bet365, Sky Bet. I understand it's becoming increasingly hard to bet at Bet365 and Sky Bet, and increasingly hard to open up new accounts there. I cannot and do not advocate opening up an account that isn't in your own name. I don't have a moral standpoint on this. I say this from a legal position from Bookiebashing. But personally, I might have bet on my dad's Bet365 account a decade ago. And a time came where I thought, this is not something that I can continue to do forever. It's just not reasonable. So what is reasonable? Well, my focus is shops and exchanges. Now, I can do exchanges by myself. Those are my bets. Don't share them with anyone. Why would I and why should I? It's just they're a lot harder to attain a return on investment on exchanges than it is soft online bookmakers or shops. I mean, that's the pyramid. Soft online bookmakers, so easy to make money, and then it's shops, and then it's exchanges. It's hard to make money in the exchanges. Your ROI is less, and you're up against more clever people with no concessions, no ability to compound value. But it is possible. And so getting good and confident in your own models to take on the exchanges would be my best advice, because you can scale to whatever you're comfortable with depositing at the exchanges. Shops, by the way, I don't know where you live, but you don't need teams to bet in shops. It's not that difficult to pop in to William Hill on a bet, especially if you commute in London as well. Like, just pop in on your way to work or your lunchtime. There's a William Hill near Junction 23 of the M25 that I just would pop into every single lunchtime during my corporate job, just because I'd rather pop into there and have a bet than sit around and talk to my work colleagues. So you don't need teams to bet in shops. It's perfectly easy to get enough volume on in there, 2-3 lucky 15s a day. Golf takes 5-10 minutes. Pop in there, get your coupon, go to the coffee shop next door. I mean, golf has been particularly profitable for me recently. Whilst I was down at Smart Bash, that was a £3,500 week. This weekend just gone was a £5,500 week. So that's £9,000 in the space of 7 days or 10 days. If you want to go from when I was betting until the end of the last tournament. I mean, I wasn't betting huge amounts of money for that £9,000. And yes, this has been a particularly lucky period, but I'm just sort of saying, I mean, scaling up isn't just about betting more, it's about betting clever. Right, let's go and grab some more questions from BB. I've maybe got another 5 minutes. There's quite a lot of questions. Right, here's what I'll do. I'll see if I can give these questions very quick answers so that I can maybe answer every question that's been asked instead of rabbiting on. So apologies if they're a little bit succinct, but I want to give it answering everything a go, okay? Hi, Tom, could you explain the benefits of the other data metrics other than the default in the golf tracker? Yes, I can. As part of the golf tracker, we use input data metrics from a lot of different places, including our own modeling. Part of it, though, and part of everything includes exchange prices, which isn't the overall picture, but feeds into it. Early on, the exchanges can be illiquid. And you can, I can force the tracker to use a little bit less confident data from the exchanges by changing to last price matched. And I often do this if I don't see that many selections on the tracker. I mean, I'd rather have confident prices, but if I see nothing, I'll change to last price matched. So give that a go, okay? Do you bet on 3 balls? If so, can you model players against each other and backtest previous performances given in the course and simulate outcomes? Would you also apply to Lucky 15? Yes, 3 balls I do, and the metrics graph is good at this. 2, I sometimes compound 3 balls. I don't think I've done a Lucky 15 on them before, but I've done Lucky 15s on other things like, William Hill, your odds are quite a good one. So, I mean, the answer just to that is yes, I do bet on 3 balls. I use the metrics graph for that. This week, I'm going to use the metrics graph for 3 balls and first round leader is my plan for that graph. Hi, Tom. Have you ever spread bet? Yes, not to anything significant or worth talking about. I don't have a question, but I want to deposit on a house this weekend using the Bookiebashing tools. So that's class. Yeah, congratulations to you. That's really cool. Someone is still lingering in the back of my mind from earlier who told me that they want me to stop. They want me to stop doing the golf doubles videos because they don't want people to know about this edge. But here's the thing. I mean, this guy's just won the deposit for a house, which is so increasingly difficult for people to do. I made the deposit for my house from gambling. Word of advice, go get a mortgage advisor. Mine told me that I had to siphon the money to Russia and then get it paid into a bank account to someone that I knew and then sent back to me as a gift. That was safer than telling the banks that I won it from gambling, apparently. But it would be much better if everyone made just a little bit of money rather than a small handful of people made all the money and then they pulled the ladder up. So the person that was telling me that I need to stop doing it, I hear about these people who win deposit for a house. That's life-changing. They might not have had their own house before. And I want to keep telling people about it so more new people have opportunities like this. Sorry, we just disagree on that point. We just do, right? Tom, don't ignore me because I'm far Glasgow. I don't ignore anyone that's far Glasgow. So many 2001 golfers. What's the best tactics? I would ignore them. I don't like things that are over 1,000 to 1 for the reasons that the exchange gets capped then. It's very difficult to look at 0.1% and lower probabilities in any modeling. They're just not going to win. When was the last time a 2001 golfer won anything? No. If I could be bothered, I'd lay them. I wouldn't back them. Best tactics for 2001 golfers is, I mean, my upper limit on golfers is about, I think it's 250 or 300 to 1. And I don't really look any higher than that. Hi, Tom. Member for 8 months. Very happy so far. It mentioned in the email you'd be discussing new strategies and processes, anything in football. Yes, but we're working on it in the background. Two of the things that we're working on in the background is backtesting a steamers tool, chasing steamers, that kind of thing. And there's a lot of football data in there, but we just need to ensure that there is long-term profit in there, because unlike sorry to blow my own trumpet, we hold the data at our site to an incredibly high regard. And whilst we want to talk about new strategies and processes, I'd rather have data that showed it was profitable rather than you just took my word for it. But that's live if you want to have a look at it. It's under tools, data, steamers. There is a steamers tool there, a lot of football in there. And the second thing that we want to do, and it's quite a complicated thing to do, we want to normalize player stats, because I think there's a huge edge to be had in doing that. And we have been recording a lot of data through the back end of last season about the effect of normalizing player stats. One thing it does do is it gives wild prices compared to not just the exchanges, but bookmakers as well. But if we can prove that they were profitable, then those wild prices stand up. It's been difficult up until now because we might have like data for 9 players in a team for shots on target, and we don't have data for 2. So my question to you would be, how do you allocate an expected shots on target when you don't even know who the 2 players are? They don't exist on your system, right? You have to give them something. You can't give them 0. Nobody's got a 0 expectancy of a shot on target. But what do you do? And then what do you do to everyone else? And that's quite a difficult mathematical quandary. And you get that mathematical problem wrong, then you lose your edge and you lose people lots of money, which is why we put it in place in February, but no one could see it other than me and my admin. And we have the data. We just haven't worked out. What I want to show is that our normalized shots on target numbers are more profitable than the current ones that we have and the exchange and the bookmakers. And if we can't prove that, then it won't be pushed live. If there is anything else you want me to focus on strategies and processes for football, let me know, because if coupons disappear next year, we have a little bit of a gap that takes up so much of our time collecting, analyzing, inputting, OCRing football. If they all go away, we have the ability to look at new things. The question is just what? Yeah, again, it's definitely going to be more exchange-based. The future is exchanges, not soft bookmakers. And to do anything exchange-based, we can never give the value bets. You give the tools for people to work out the value bets, because if you just say, well, this price is good in the exchange, one or two people take that price, all the liquidity goes, everybody jumps up and down and gets really mad, etc., etc. Can I take the purple 5,000 to 1 golfers on smaller odds markets, like make the cut top golfer by category? Or does that not necessarily mean that they are value there too? I hate the 5,000 to 1 golfers. I mean, I wouldn't. The one thing that I do think there is a transitional ability to take the tracker and look elsewhere as first round leader, simply because the tracker is highlighting two things: steamers and golfers that have been really identified by syndicates and sharp bettors out in the markets. And they're essentially saying that these guys are overpriced for outright, and so they're value bets. And a number of different metrics has allowed us to calculate the expected value with a reasonable amount of accuracy. Those players also apply to first round leader. The difficulty is, what odds are you meant to be taking? You see, all they can do is highlight them, but if they're evens for first round leader, then they're not a good bet. You have to kind of work out. The game that I play is, if they are relatively the same odds as other players that are bad value, then that's kind of a good indicator. But up at 5,000 to 1, no, I don't like it. I just don't think golfers at 5,000 to 1 are ever going to perform well enough to earn you money in any market. So I would ignore them, or ignore them for all markets. Also, we did try to have a look at top European, top USA, and it's a very confusing market. It's one of those things. I'm sure it shouldn't be more confusing than a first goal scorer or an AGS market, but we can never get it to work. And we had a model, and I spoke to some very clever people, and we ran it, and it just didn't work. And I don't know why it doesn't work, because you'd think it would be quite an easy mathematical puzzle. So that top golfer by category market is a mystery to me about how it works. Can't get my head around it. Do you have any tips on how to extend accounts without restrictions? No, because I do not bet on soft online bookmakers. My advice might be your odds. What odd parties combo bets seem to be good, compound into multiples, but it does sound like restrictions are inevitable. Maybe focus on exchanges and shops in the long run, because those two platforms are much less restrictive. Don't bet singles, even though singles have the best variance profile. Hi, Tom. Looking to maximize the use of the match center against soft books, but very rarely find any plus EV bets except for the odd over corners markets. Do you have any strategies to use on Bet365? No, Bet365 much better looking at player bets, anytime goal scorer, first goal scorer, and all of the player stats bets, because they price all of those in-house. They don't use external trading firms, and they're sometimes very wild. The Game Center used to throw up quite a lot of value. I think over time, all of the models have converged into a sort of efficiency. And I think it's we do publish Asian handicap minus 1.5 up to 7.5 for home and away teams. Both teams to score and over 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 goals. We publish all of these lines. But it tends to be, if one of them's efficient, and by efficient I mean it's not plus EV anywhere, they're all efficient and they're not plus EV anywhere, because it's all, once you've got one right, the rest of them are going to be right as well. So the Game Center is of less use for soft bookmakers like Bet365. Hi, Tom. I've been doing each way doubles every day for about 3 years. Multis like Lucky 15s don't last too long. Has that changed since? On one of your last videos, you recommended them. Sorry, let me ask that again. I've been doing each way doubles every day for about 3 years. Multis like Lucky 15s, my online accounts weren't lasting too long. Okay. I mean, I'm afraid, again, look, Lucky 15, I don't have an online account, so I'm not talking from personal experience, but there's now a Lucky 15 finder, each way finder at 3 extremely large communities. 2 of those communities are about 30 to 50 times the size of Bookiebashing. So whereas 3 years ago, this many people were looking at them, Lucky 15s, now 100 times that number of people are looking at them. And as a result, I can imagine that if the bookmakers see all of those people doing Lucky 15s, whereas in the past they might not have restricted them, they now do. So what I would advise is don't do what the other communities are doing. So if the other communities are doing Lucky 15s, do other things or bet on exchanges and shops. Sorry to keep on going about that, but that's how I get around it. Okay. Hi Tom, Betfred book percent for the Open win 178%, 10 places 780%. Is this likely to get better or worse as we get nearer to the start? I mean, you've got, how many players have you got in the tournament? I mean, the book percentage is related to the number of options that are in there. There's value. I mean, are you complaining about the value of Betfred just now? Let me just go and not complain. Complaining sounded a bit harsh, but you know what I mean. Are you saying that it's terrible? Because I don't care what the over-round is. I will tell you this right now. Go to Betfred and go and bet on the following golfers, and you will average more than £20 profit for every £100 you put down. Mackenzie Hughes, Aaron Rye. I love it when he says that's my golfer of the tournament. 80 to 1, Betfred. Put the house on it. Tony Finau, Rasmus Højgaard, Francis Molinari, Antoine Rosner, Zach Johnson, Cantor, Laurie Cantor, McNeely, Westwood, and Parry. And if we were trying to work out what field coverage that is, let's do this in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's maybe like 8% field coverage. And that's all over 120% expected value. To me, I don't care about the over-round, the book percentage. There's value out there. So go and bet on it. Greetings, Tom, from Dublin. Is betting at odds of evens considered stealing when generally the price available is 1.91? I got banned for asking a stake of €150 on BBC Sports Personality of the Year. That's how ridiculous things are. I mean, if it's an outlier price, yeah, it's not considered stealing. Avoid anything that is close to an ARB. Definitely avoid anything that is an ARB. Avoid anything that is top price. 3 rules to live by. But €150 on BBC Sports Personality of the Year, that's been the kind of bet that would have been gone under the radar 5 years ago and not now. It is ridiculous. I wouldn't consider it stealing. It's just, if I was doing that, I might be doing that down in my local Ladbrokes. It's not stealing. Just, yeah, I hope you modeled it yourself instead of just betting on top price, because betting on outlier top price, it's confusing because why don't they just cut the top price? That would be easier than restricting the people betting on it, wouldn't it? How big did the backflip syndicate get at Smart Bash this year? I've backed the no in that market. We're nearly up to £2,000. I don't know how big it is. I'm just searching my phone here. So that I bet that I can complete a backflip by my 50th birthday, which is in 2.5 years' time. Where's my backflip? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people. That's how big. No one from my gym has taken me up on it, which is a vote of confidence. But there you go. Any advice on working out the EV of a bet on our own? Like, for example, a 2-to-1 bet for a team to win, doubling to 4-to-1 when a player scores a hat trick and their team wins the game. That's just too complicated for me to do whilst I'm talking right now. Like, okay, I mean, we could probably work out the mathematics of that, but I can't do it live on the video. So I'll get back to you on that. We'll find it. I'm posting something. The graph of volume of bets that are plus EV on the horse racing tracker. I'll post that, and we'll see if we can do the maths for a team to win, doubling to 4-to-1 when a player scores a hat trick and their team wins the game. By the way, you'd think if the player scores a hat trick, it's like how many times does the team not win the game? Because then it's a minimum of 3 goals for one team. So it's 3-3 3-4, 4-4. You know what I mean? So the team, like I've been looking quite a lot at hat-trick data in last season, and there were only, how many hat-tricks were there in the Premiership last season? Well, not all Premiership, because this is only where I've got closing line data on the exchange for AGS. So this might not be all hat-tricks, but there were only 11 out of 4,701 players. And the interesting thing with my model, I was trying to see if it converged to 0 for estimating the odds of 3+ goals. Now, 2+ goals running at minus 17%. So you might think, well, the model's not working then. But then 3+ goals, it's plus 10%. And so why are we down for 2+ and up for 3+? Well, the answer is because 11 hat-tricks is not a lot of hat-tricks. I would imagine in all 11 of those games, that team won the game. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm sort of rambling. I can't do the mathematics of that live, but we might have a think about it. What would you recommend moving between different shops to keep a low profile? After a big win, yes. Yeah. A big win, you'll stand out, leave it a few weeks, a couple of months, you'll be fine. I mean, it depends. Do you live in the Isle of Arran? Because if you've got one William Hill available to you in Hoyk, then you don't have that option to you. If you do have the option to you, then it doesn't hurt moving between different shops. But if you think you can get away with going from shop to shop to shop to shop to shop, they are looking for that. And sometimes it's harder to bet on Manchester, Birmingham, London, city centre shops because they're looking for those people moving shop to shop to shop. You go out into the rural areas, they're not so much looking for that because you have to pay for petrol and parking. Do you ever think of betting on cricket markets, the most liquid on the exchanges? Years ago, looked at making scoring models for football, rugby, NFL. Do you know the one sport I just couldn't work out? I can't work out cricket for the life of me. Duncan's favourite sport as well. Love going to watch it. Don't understand how the modelling system works. Don't understand how to price a team, a player, anything. Don't know anything. So, yeah, I'd love to, but it's beyond me. I've got to know my own limits. Do you perm doubles? Do perm doubles require an equal total of players from each tournament? This is golf betting. No, you could have. The bet that I saw that won 18 grand yesterday had, I think, 20 players from the Scottish Open and 3 players from the ISCO Championship. And I presume whoever did that did it because there was loads of value in one tournament and very little in the other. So that's 60 doubles, right? Muo happened to be one of those 3 players. How lucky is that? And got her up and was in the other one. What's the highest priced exchange winner on the golf win only? I can answer that question. Just let me open up a spreadsheet where I've got all of them. Here we go. What would your maximum exchange price be? Yeah, 500. I don't touch the thousands on purpose, as I've said, because the thousands could be 5,000, there could be 10,000, there could be a lot going on there. I wish I was having some of that pie that the 1.01 layers and the 1,000 layers are having. So yeah, 500 is where I sort of make a limit. But what's the biggest one? Well, let me tell you now. I've got the spreadsheet in front of me. I think I'm missing maybe the last handful of tournaments here to update, and we have had a couple of winners recently. So if the biggest one was in the last month or so, I might not have it on here. But the largest one was 470. So top 3 I'll give you, okay? We had Martin Laird, the Shriners Hospital for Children, at 330. That's 2020. And then 2 in 2022. The Barbasol Championship at 280. And there was Henrik Stenson up at 400. So, I mean, when you're up at there, what we're taking there, and that was in 2022, Henrik Stenson was in Live Bedminster. It's amazing that we've got a Live winner there at all. What you've got to note there is that we've probably taken a snapshot of the last price matched, and it's possible that could not have been a fair price, because when there are those very, very high prices, there might be a wild trading price. Okay, so I mean, this is automated. What can we do? It feels like the last traded price before the market closes is a reasonable way of working it out. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the liquid price was, but we don't have all of that information. Okay, unless Vivi has sent me okay, there's 5 very quick ones. Do you only get your winnings from shops in cash? Yes, and had I won 50,000 yesterday, I would have wanted it in cash. I would have taken it home. The dog would have eaten it. We would have had to take the dog to the vets like we did recently to have her stomach open. And then I would have told the vet if any of the notes were still in one piece, the vet can take and keep any for themselves. What is the difference between the BB each way calc and Kelly staking? So it's a form of Kelly staking, but Duncan, who is a pretty good accountant and mathematician, has looked at Kelly and just tweaked it based on the very, very large amounts of data that we've had to come up with the optimal historical staking method. No reason to think why it wouldn't outperform Kelly in the future. So it's a really, really good staking system that makes sure that it's, it is pushing you to bet more when there is more value and certain odds ranges. You're just getting a little bit more tweaking and optimal than Kelly can give you. Hi, Tom. You mentioned a while ago a tracker for on-course bookies. Is that about to be released? It's being worked on in the background. The next few weeks is my best answer. Again, I'll ask IT and get back to you on that one. Okay. Right. But yeah, I mean, it's working in the background. It just needs a little bit of tidying up and making sure it refreshes. The golf tournaments, they load in twice a week. With this, we need 60 a day, so there's a little bit more IT to be done in the background. So that's why the golf one got released first. But yeah, it will be soon. It'll be this summer, early autumn. Is there a limited number of golfers you'll take, or a percentage of the field you're covering? Yes, I hate going over 20%. Don't like it. Some people go to 50%. I mean, that's personal risk preference. How much percentage of the field that you cover? You could bet 50% of the field if you want to. I don't want to. My sweet spot is 15 to 20%. I don't like going under 8%. I don't like going over 20%. That's just my variance. The number of golfers is irrelevant because 10 golfers at 100 to 1 is the same as 1 golfer at 9 to 1. Right? You're betting 10% of the field, whether it's 10 golfers or 1 golfer. So don't think of it as in the number of golfers. Having said that, I do prefer short price golfers, single short price golfers over multiple longer priced golfers. I think you don't need to take as much EV when you're looking at the shorter prices. But that's something that Trench mentioned. He mentioned that you get higher ROI. You should expect higher ROI at higher prices. And so always bear that in mind. And I've been looking at the ROI of anytime goal scorer and first goal scorer last season. I'm going to do a video about it, hopefully before the summer holidays start next week. And the one thing to note is that when you are looking at the ROI of first goal scorer, your ROI of backing is 42% last season. That's pretty big. And your ROI of laying is 0.61. Now, you might argue, well, what's going on there? Surely the lays are doing really badly compared to the backs. But it's not that. It is the fact that the average first goal scorer on the exchange is 32, right? And when you're laying, that means that the average is 1.03. And so your ROI is completely dependent on the average odds that you're betting at. You're never going to get 42% ROI betting at 1.03 or laying 32%. So it's not like for like. So I can't even remember why I'm talking about that, but that video should be decent. I mean, we had a very decent, there was a lot more difference between our numbers and the exchanges when it came to the goals last season. There were 720 recorded goals of players that had a closing line for anytime goal scorer. The exchanges predicted 766 goals. There were 720, so 93% accuracy. Once you normalized the figures, the Bookiebashing figures were given 728 goals. So I mean, it was multiple times more accurate than the exchange figures, which is what allows us to exploit the exchange. That video will be coming up later in the week. Any tips for staking with golf singles and doubles? Kelly, will the Bookiebashing Kelly calc work? Yeah, the Bookiebashing Kelly calc will work. The Bookiebashing each way staking calc will work. I'm a bit lazy, so sometimes I go, if it's low value, 2.5 grand liability, medium value, 3.5, high value, 4, mega value, 5. It's just like, it's not precise science for me. I don't need, but some people do like it to be precise. That's like a time management thing. I do a lot of my calculations on the fly. I see a purple golfer, I look at it on the coupon on the machine, I do a little very quick mental mathing that don't need to be extremely precise. I just need to make sure that I'm betting higher sometimes. It's not, I don't like flat staking on everything. So yeah, with doubles it's slightly harder. You can't really change your stake because you can't, like lucky 15s. A unit loss stake on lucky 15s, either £2 or £3 lucky 15s, depending on the EV and the magnitude of the odds. If it's 400 to 1 horses, I'm not going £3 lucky 15. It's just too much variance for me. Okay. And the same with the golfers. You're not going to be able to change your stake, so just stick to whatever you're comfortable with: 50p, £1, £2, and then you hope that your Paul Peterson wins over your William Woe. Why would you only want to get paid cash from a shop? Because I just like cash. It's my money. It's my money. Like, give it to me in cash. I don't want it on card. I want the cash. You go over to Vegas, you win £250,000 in a poker tournament. They give you one chip, a single chip to walk around the different casinos. You shouldn't be scared of cash. Pay for cash in your local shops. Avoid bars and pubs that are card only. Any reason why the horse racing tracker results are using higher stakes than what the Bookiebashing Kelly calc is giving? Maybe can bet more as is each way. I'm afraid I don't understand that question. Any reasons why the horse racing tracker results are using higher stakes than what the Bookiebashing Kelly calc is giving? I mean, we've got a number of different staking methodologies. We've got unit win, unit loss, Kelly, and then BBH way. So perhaps, I don't know which one of those you're looking at. If you want to email me at tom@bookiebashing.net with more information about that question, I will happily answer it for you. Okay, that's the last question that Vivi has sent me. I've got one more notification. Sound was working and then it died. Oh, that was an hour and a half ago, so hopefully I haven't just been talking into the ether for the last hour. Thank you very much. Sorry about the problems that we had at the beginning. I'm a techno idiot. Coming up, I'm going to go and collect my £5,500 from golf from the shops tomorrow. We're going to get on the Open and the Barracuda Championship. Kids break up from school on Friday. Kids go to grandparents on Saturday. I've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday next week to wrap everything up and get ready. And then Wednesday next week, offline until September. I think it's September the 3rd. No Twitter, no Slack. Lots of barbecues, beaches, surfing. It's going to be glorious. Got the puppy. I've got the kids. Life is going to be good. So, yeah, thank you very much for tuning into the live chat, the live Q&A. And, yeah, we'll do another one later on in the year. Cheers.